Welcome to Liesl's Artistic Studio. I hope you're ready for just some pure painting fun today because we are just going to relax and practice painting these simple but beautiful wildflowers. So besides watercolor paper, we need watercolor paints, a paper towel, some clean water, and I will be using this Meeden brand brush today. Now, I really like this brand of brushes, except that they don't list what size they are. So I'm guessing this is about a size 8, but whatever brush you use, make sure it has a nice pointy tip. Now, I'll go ahead and tape my paper down really quickly and then we'll be ready to go. And as a side note, any supplies you see me using today will be listed in the description of this video. So just as a quick reference, this was my little practice piece that I was just playing around with. And when I was done, I thought, dang, that actually turned out pretty good. Too bad I wasn't recording it. So I decided I needed to do it again with you today. Hopefully it will turn out as good as my practice piece. All right, let's get a few colors mixed up on our tray for a light background wash. So first up, we have some phthalo blue. Then I'll add some Hooker's green off to the side of this blue. In fact, I'll probably even add a touch of the blue into the green so that it's more of a blue-green color. Then we'll add a little bit of Dioxazine purple, as well as some Quinacridone rose mixed with just a touch of Dioxazine purple for a purple-pink color. And lastly, we'll have a little bit of yellow. Today, we'll give Azo Yellow a try. Now that I've got my colors ready, I will start painting on just some clean water where I would like the background color to be placed. I am focusing this mostly in the bottom half of the page, and it might be a little hard to see, but I'm not actually filling in every bit of space here. I am leaving a few spots dry so that I have some more white areas here and there. Now let's apply some of the color on the water that we have on our page. I'll start with some of this phthalo blue. Now I am going to keep this a little bit lighter in value also, so if you need to, feel free to add extra water to your paint. You'll also notice that I am going around some of the drier areas and leaving some spaces more white. We'll move on to the blue-green color now, letting it bleed and blend into some of the blue that we have on here already. Now you'll see that as I move the paint upward, I am really fading out this color to be very light in value, almost like it's disappearing into nothing. Now, here's a fun thing you can try if you'd like. I have a little bit of empty space here at the bottom of the page, so I'm going to just use the tip of my brush and pull some of this wet color downward, and this is going to create the appearance of flower stems that are further back or more in the distant background. Kind of a neat effect. All right, let's move on to some purple and then pink colors now, continuing on with this soft, sort of fluffy cloud look. I'm going to come back in here really quick while this purple is still just slightly damp and add some darker spots of color that will sort of bleed just a little bit, and later this is going to create a sort of soft background flower. Now I might go ahead and throw in just a touch of light yellow into the background here as well, and then I think we can move on to the next step. All right, I think I'd like to add in a few more of these sort of soft purple flowers here and there. So I'm going to wet down a couple of very small spots and then paint some dots of purple color, kind of like we did before. On this purple flower here, I didn't actually add water first. I'll make this one a little more dark and a little more crisp, and it might even be fun to add in a touch of blue at the bottom. I think I actually need to darken up this flower just a little bit more as well. Now I'm going to add in some thin purple or blue stems to these purple background flowers that I just made. And this is where having a brush with a nice pointy tip comes in really helpful. It takes a very light touch to do this. If you're finding you're having trouble creating these thin lines with a larger brush, please feel free to pull out a smaller brush or even a rigger or liner to help with this. All right, I'm going to paint another purple flower in here, but this time I want it to appear like it's more in the foreground compared to these other flowers. So I want to paint it a little bigger and with a little more detail. I'm going to start these flowers a little smaller at the top here and then gradually get bigger as I move downward. Now, I haven't actually painted a stalk or a stem to move down or follow along to yet, so I'm just kind of imagining and keeping in mind where I might have it go, and then I'll paint those loose flowers like they're going down each side of that imaginary stalk. It's also fun to add some darker or more concentrated purple onto the inner spots of these flowers while the paint is still slightly wet to add some extra dimension. Let's go ahead now and add in the main stem or stalk to this flower, as well as any connecting branches that might attach some of the little flowers to the main stalk. I'll add a little bit of Hooker's green to my tray now and actually finish this flower stem off with some of this green. Okay, that's looking pretty good, but I may add in a couple more smaller flowers here at the bottom of this to really finish it off. All right, let's change out our water for some fresh, clean water, and then we can move on. So let's paint some little yellow flowers in here next. I'll make some bud shapes here first, and then while the yellow paint is still slightly wet, I'll add in a touch of green at the base and let it blend in just a little bit. I try to create fun and beautiful tutorials at a variety of skill levels so that anyone can try their hand at painting. If you're enjoying my teaching style and artwork, I hope you'll subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss out on any of my new and upcoming weekly tutorials. I'll add in a little green stem here as well, and what the heck, I know it doesn't really make sense, but I might just have this one attached to this purple flower here. Why not? We're just making this up as we go. Let's add in some smaller little bundles of yellow flowers next. These will be placed down a little lower on the page, and I'm not really using any specific shape here. It's just spots of color. I might even throw a little cad orange to change things up just a little bit as well. The great thing about painting loose like this is that you really don't have to worry about extreme details. We just need it to resemble and represent or put the idea across as to what the object is, and our mind kind of fills in the blanks after that. I'll use some green paint now and paint in some thin twigs and stems that will really tie this little flower bundle together. And again, use a smaller or more fine detailed brush if you need to. Alrighty, moving on, let's paint in a few flowers with some larger petals that will appear maybe a little bit more flower-like than some of these ones we've already done. I'll use some alizarin crimson for the first flower. I'll start with the tip of the brush at the center of the flower petal. Then I'll push downward on my brush to make the brush stroke slightly wider as I pull up. I may have to do this stroke 2 or 3 times until I get the petal to be the size and shape that I want. I may even leave a white space here and there to add a little bit of variety or a highlight. If you'd like to add a little something extra to these petals, you can even come back in here while the paint is still a little wet and add some extra darker color on the ends of the petal. This will kind of add a fun gradient of light and dark values. I'm going to paint this flower at more of a side-facing view, so I'm only going to paint these petals on the top or upper half of the flower rather than all the way around in a circle. I'm painting about 4 of these petals using the same technique as before, however, I may adjust the thickness of the petals a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's do another flower like this, but this time I'm going to add just a touch of cadmium orange to the alizarin crimson on our tray to just change the color up just a little bit. I'll go ahead and paint one more flower like this closer to the top left-hand corner of the page using again the same technique. But I'll add even more orange to my color for this flower, and I am going to try to make it slightly larger as well. Well, this flower ended up with 6 petals instead, but you know what? That's okay. It just adds more of a variety to my painting. Let's try something else different on this flower too and add some darker color, maybe some alizarin crimson, to the center parts of the flower rather than the outer edges of the petals. That's kind of a fun change. All right, let's take some darker green now, maybe some hooker's green or even hooker's green with a little bit of blue or black mixed into it to make it very nice and dark. And we'll start painting the greenery at the base of these larger flowers. Then once as these base areas are done, I'll use some hooker's green or even sap green and paint some nice thin stems stretching down to the ground. I think I'm about done with the flower portion of the painting here, but I do feel like this little spot is a little bit bare, so I'll just add in a couple of small green buds. Okay, this is looking pretty good and it really hasn't been too difficult so far. We just have one more final step to do, that is to add in some leaves. I like to use a variety of colors for the leaves, maybe some yellow green, some pure green, some blue green. There's nothing too special about these leaves either, they are just a normal leaf shape. I'll just paint these leaves in here and there in any empty spaces using a variety of sizes and colors. The fun thing you can try though, similar to those larger petals we painted, would be to add in a secondary color to blend in while the leaf is still wet. For example, you paint a leaf using some sap green. Then maybe you add in a touch of blue-green while the paint is still wet to one end of it and let those colors bleed into each other. The biggest thing to keep in mind here is to paint in these leaves sparingly. You really don't need a ton of them. A few leaves can go a long way. Try not to get carried away and paint so many that it detracts from the flowers. For one extra element of fun, I might paint in a few colorful, thin lines here and there that can sort of represent grass, branches, or flower stems from far away. This is definitely an optional step. You may like your painting just how it is without this. If you decide to give it a try though, just keep these lines very light in value. We only want a tiny hint of them. We don't want them to become the focus. Well done, everyone. That is it for this simple but pretty wildflower painting. I hope you just had fun with this piece and enjoyed the painting practice. If you did enjoy this tutorial, please consider subscribing to my channel so I can continue to help you discover your artistic side.